Hey, Hallie, I am Miss Andrea. I'm the one that your mom contacted on Facebook for a little bit of statistics help. And so we are looking at Life of Fred Statistics, Chapter 4. The homework help is Jessie, and it's, if I remember correctly, it was problem 6. So I'm sorry, I'm getting my screen all set up here. Okay, so when we're completing one of these problems that uses the normal curve, there's two things really that you need, and that's pretty much it. You're going to need pi, which, grab my glasses so I can see. Pi in is obviously not 3.14, whatever. Pi in this case is the proportion of good items. So proportion of good items, and good is in quotation marks because it's not good versus bad. It's good meaning what you're looking for, right? And then the other thing you need is n, which is going to be your sample size. And then some things that you're going to be looking for. So these two things are what should be given to you, right? Those are usually given in the problem. Okay, and then what you're looking for to help you in the problem is going to be mu, which is the average. And you find that by doing n times pi. Okay, and then the next thing you need is standard deviation. And you find that by doing the square root of mu times 1 minus pi. I think in the book it has n times pi in here in place of mu, but you've already computed that, so you don't need to compute it again. You can just go ahead and plug it in right there. And remember, when you're entering this into your calculator, you're going to want to throw another set of parentheses on it so that it doesn't mess up in your calculator. Your calculator will, when you do this, the radical symbol, you're going to go ahead and put in your first parentheses, put in your average, another open parentheses, 1 minus whatever your pi is, your proportion of good, and then close both parentheses before you hit enter. All right. Then the next thing we look for is the z-score, right? Z-score. And how you find that is, this is what you're going to use to look up on the chart. And how you find that is you're going to do your x, which is not really your x. We're going to look at that in a minute, minus what your average mu, and it's going to be over your standard deviation. Let me make sure I got that right. Yep. All right, and so this is what you use to find your answer, but you need to find it. Okay, so there's sometimes a rare case that you're going to be given this average, but usually they give you the proportion of good. Okay, so we actually have both of these in our problem. So let's read our problem and look for what our proportion of good is and our sample size. Our problem says 60% of all Cub Scouts have earned an arrow in the last year. So stopping right there, we know that 60% of them have done the thing that we're going to be looking for, the good that we're looking for. Remember, good just means what we're looking for. So the proportion of good is usually, proportion is your key there, letting you know that it's going to be a percentage or a fraction. And so our proportion of good is 60%. So it's going to be 0.6 here. And then it says in a pack of 50 Cub Scouts. Okay, well, right there, that tells us what n is in a pack of 50 Cub Scouts. So we've got our pi and we've got our n. And it says, here's what we're going to be looking for. We want the probability. What is the probability that at least 35 of these Cub Scouts have earned an arrow of light in the last year? And so you're going to put X, and you know that X is going to need to be greater than something, okay? Well, we can't put 35 right here because 35 has to be included, because our problem was, what is the probability that at least 35? So we want to say a number that's going to be less than 35, but not quite the next kid down, like 34 kids, right? So you're going to do 34.5, because the next one up from 34.5 is going to be 35. So 35 would be included in our answer here. So 34.5. This is what we're looking for, the probability that X is greater than 34.5. So in this case, we now know that our X that we're going to use in this formula is 34.5. Okay, so now we can go ahead and compute all of this information. So this is what was given to us right here. Okay. Now we kind of had to figure this out just a little bit, but I'm still going to include that in the given information because it's part of how we were looking for it. So now we need to find mu. So let's look at mu real quick. Mu, remember, is n times pi. So 50 times 0.6. So mu in this case, I believe it was 30. But let's just plug it in. 50 times 0.6 is, yep, 30. Okay. And then let's plug in what's our standard of deviation. I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to do 30 and 1 minus 0.6 and close both parentheses and hit enter. This is my radical symbol right here, right? And the reason, again, that I have this outer parentheses is to make sure that the calculator knows that everything that I have within these parentheses is what's under this radical, because you can't just extend your radical out. So let's see. Radical parentheses 30 parentheses 1 minus 0.6 close parentheses twice, and 30 times. Yeah. Now, in the life of Fred, everything that they do for this statistics anyways, it's going to round to the nearest 100th place. So in this case, we got 3.464. So that second 4 is going to tell me to round down to just 3.46. So the standard of deviation is 3.46. Okay. All right, so that brings us to our z-score. Our z-score we know is going to be the x, which we have right up here, 34.5 minus our mu, which is 30. And we're going to put those in parentheses. And then we're going to divide by. I'm writing it how you would enter it into your calculator. So you don't have to do two separate problems. And then if you were to write it on your piece of paper, you'd write it like this. Okay, then the standard of deviation 3.46 and hit enter. So let me do that now. Parentheses 34.5 minus 30 close parentheses divided by 3.46 equals 1.30057, etc. So since there was a second zero here, I'm going to round down to 1.30. Now, let's talk about the normal curve. Normal curve. I did not do a very good job of drawing a symmetrical normal curve, but that is something like what the normal curve would be. This right here is going to be our 34.5, and we want to know what is greater than 34.5. Not less than. We're not interested in this part. We're interested in the greater than part. Okay. So with the chart that they have in your book, in the Life of Fred book, that chart is always telling you what is to the left of this. And the way that the book tells you to determine what is to the right is to do 1 minus whatever you find in the chart. One thing I'm going to tell you is that if you just choose to do the opposite of your z-score, because remember in your turn to play number 5, it told you that this is exactly the same as that one was, right? So if we just look at the opposite of the z-score, so in other words, I'm going to look up in this case Z is negative 1.3. Instead of looking up Z is 1.3 and then doing 1 minus whatever I found, I'm just going to look up Z equals negative 1.3. And that's because the book is always telling me what's to the left, but I really want what's to the right. So if I want what's to the right, I'm going to look up the opposite of my Z-score. So I'm going to turn to page 468. And on your chart, you have the Z-score like this, and then 0.00, 0.01, et cetera, So what we're going to be looking up is the one that's negative 1.3, which actually I think it's only the second one down, so we'll put it right there. Negative 1.3, and that is what you find under here because of these numbers. Now this 0 right here, you're going to be looking at the numbers in the columns over here. So since it's this 0, you're going to look for this number, which in this case happens to be 0.09, 0.09 680. Okay, so now let's translate this into a percentage. Okay, so we know that this probability is going to be approximately or about 9.68%. 9.68%. Okay, so since this was a word problem, we are technically supposed to write it as a word answer. And our question was, what is the probability that at least 35 of them have earned their arrow in the last year? So there is approximately a 9.68% chance that at least, what did it say, 35 Cub Scouts. Oh, I didn't, that's supposed to be scout, not scouts. Scouts in the troop earned their arrow. I happen to know it's an arrow of light, so arrow of light. Okay, so there's an approximately, I know you can't read my handwriting, so I'm going to read it to you. There's approximately a 9.68% chance that at least 35 Cub Scouts in the troop have earned their arrow of light. And to write that sentence mathematically is the probability of X being greater than 34.5 is approximately 9.68%. So I hope that helped you. If you have more questions, let me know. It does get a little more intense in this book. One thing I highly recommend to you is page, what is this? 326, page 326, the emergency statistics guide that really helps you to identify what you're looking for, how to determine which test you're going to use. And then also page 395 all the way to the end of that. Let's see, 458. That's basically all kinds of just every test that you're given in this book. What I would do is I'd take one of these larger note cards, and any test that you're taught, I would make sure that you have a note card with it on there that you can just like flip through and look at them and put the important information. Make sure you have the important information on the note card, and all the important information is listed in these pages, pages 395 to 458, and it even gives you a sample problem. So it's really good information. I would also write on your note card the page that information is on, so that if you're looking at your note card and you want to see an example problem, you can quickly turn to that page and see where it is. So those are my helpful hints that really were good information for us when we went through the book. All right, Hallie, I hope that you do well and have fun in your statistics class.